On Tuesday, the 5th of January 1937, a 10-year-old girl went missing after leaving school in Newark-on-Trent, Nottingham. Mona Tinsley didn't arrive home at her usual time, and naturally her parents began to worry. Her father, in a panic, went to her friends, but she was nowhere to be seen. Wilfred and Lilian Tinsley reported their daughter, Mona Tinsley, as missing to the police. The police launched a manhunt for the child, and it continued into the next morning. They dragged the canal, searched empty houses, and started door-to-door questioning. While questioning, a young boy, who knew Mona, told the police he had seen her with a man at the local bus depot. A neighbour of the Tinsleys also saw a man who she knew to have lodged with the Tinsleys at one time. He was hanging around close to the school Mona attended. The police took this information and questioned the parents about the former lodger. They seemed reluctant to talk about him, but eventually they admitted he had stayed with them for a short time, as he was a friend of Mrs. Tinsley's sister. But they had had to ask him to leave, as he hadn't managed to pay any rent. Reluctantly, they gave the police the address of her sister, Edith Grimes, in Sheffield. When questioned, Mrs. Grimes claimed to have not seen the man who went by the name Frederick Nodder for some time. This would turn out to be a lie, as Mrs. Grimes had in fact been visiting him at his home at Retford and later admitted to an affair. She would continue to be unhelpful, but a neighbour gave them information that would help lead the police to Frederick Nodder's residence. Back at the bus depot, they questioned the bus driver who had seen Mona on his bus with a man going to Retford. They got off the bus together. The police made discreet inquiries by calling on Nodder's neighbours. The information they gathered from a cleaner working in a nearby house said that she had seen a young girl at the back doorway of Frederick Nodder's house while Nodder was digging in the garden. That night, the police watched his empty home, waiting for him to return. When he finally showed up, the police took him in for questioning. They were convinced Nodder was involved in the little girl's disappearance, as his description matched that given by the witnesses. At first, Nodder denied having seen the child for over a year and knew nothing of her whereabouts, but admitted he did know her. Not wanting to let him go, but not having enough evidence, the only thing they could hold him on was non-payment of an affiliation order. This had been issued on behalf of his ex-wife for not paying towards his children. On searching his property, the police noted how dirty it was, but the search turned up some scraps of paper with children's writing on it. It was confirmed to be Mona's handwriting. It also turned up some drawings made by a child. The biggest find was a fingerprint of a child left on a mug in a filthy kitchen sink. clothes matching the description of the man on the bus was also found. He was also picked out in an identity parade by the witnesses who saw him. He began to waver as the evidence against him grew and made a new statement. Admitting to having seen and spoken to Mona, he had offered to take her to see her new baby cousin in Sheffield, and she said she would like that. Apparently, Mona and her siblings had always liked Nodder, so she would have gone with him happily. He had second thoughts about going with her to Sheffield, as that's where the judgment for him was issued. He said he had told her he would put her on a later bus from Worksop to her aunt's in Sheffield. Now this is completely insane to me. In the middle of winter, on a cold, dark January night, he claims to have put a 10-year-old girl on a bus to travel alone on a 20-mile trip. When she got there, she would have to find her aunt's house on her own. This statement didn't add up, as she wasn't seen by anyone in Worksop or on the bus. She wasn't seen by anyone. On the 9th and 10th of March 1937, Frederick Nodder appeared at Warwick Winter Assizes in Birmingham, charged under the Section 56 of the Offences Against the Person Act with taking away a child from her parents by force or fraud. It took the jury 16 minutes to find him guilty, and he was sentenced to 7 years. The search for Mona continued. An intense search through the house, the surrounding area, the canals close by that stretched for 5 miles to the River Idle. This went on for weeks, but she wasn't found. As word spread, hundreds of people turned up to help assist with the search. Estelle Roberts, a celebrated medium, offered to assist the police in locating Mona. And with the approval of Mona's parents, she offered her advice that Mona had been strangled and would be found in water. She apparently pointed out the river and how Nodder had carried her there under darkness. They even had someone with a diviner made of whalebone trying to locate the girl. The case had become very high profile and reported on consistently. 5 months later, a man, while out rowing with his family on the River Idle, came across something in the water. Realizing it was a body, he quickly sent his son for help. The police pulled the child from the river. Mona's father was sent for and he identified his daughter. She was still in the same clothes she was wearing when she disappeared. The post-mortem results showed that she had been strangled. Mona Tinsley was laid to rest in Newark Cemetery. On the 27th of July 1937, Nodder was brought back to court and charged with the murder of Mona Tinsley, this time at Nottinghamshire Assizes. His statement had slightly changed. Nodder claimed, because it was late, he had decided to wait and send her to her aunt's in the morning. So he fed her and put her to bed. But once again, this didn't add up, as she was seen at his house at the time he claims to have put her on the bus. The trial lasted 2 days, and after 30 minutes, the jury found him guilty. He was sentenced to death. On sentencing Nodder to death, Mr. Justice McNaughton aptly remarked, "Justice has slowly but surely overtaken you." Frederick Nodder was hung in Lincoln Prison on the 30th of December 1937. Frederick Nodder was tried twice for the same case. Because they didn't have a body the first time, he was charged basically with abduction of a child. When Mona's body was found, they could charge him with murder. He would have gone free after the 7 years if her body hadn't been found. This case, as cited in English law, led to the abolition of the no body, no murder principle, and it was abolished in 1954, allowing a conviction with circumstantial evidence, should this evidence be sufficiently compelling and convincing.